What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rev Hard Garage. I know you've already noticed one thing that's pretty obvious. I got in a fight with a lawnmower. There's a little story involved with this, but that's okay. Everything's cool. Feels good. It's summertime, you know, so, you know. So here it is. Anyway, I just wanted to say, what's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up? Who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
What's up? What's up?
Yo, Duque, pick up the phone.
Yo. What's up?
What you doing, son?
I don't know why I did that. I just felt like being silly. Today, working on Brandy's 97X, and so basically what's going on with it is occasionally it'll kind of start spitting and sputtering. What kind of timing was that? Anyway, so you're driving around, and most of the time it's fine. But every once in a while, if you get on it, it'll just kind of spit and sputter. And I've data logged it. I've done all kind of stuff, and it's so intermittent that I can't really distinguish what's going on. And I've even started monitoring the fuel pressure, and I think the fuel pump is starting to go out. I've checked the circuits, the wiring, and all that stuff. Everything seems to be fine. The grounds are good. So I think what's happening is once the fuel pump's been running for a little while, it's starting to get hot, and I think it's actually boiling the fuel, because I noticed after I had it idling for a while on the fuel pressure gauge that I had hooked up to the rail that the needle was starting to bounce around. And I got a little clip of that. I'll put it up there somewhere, maybe right there, something like that, maybe over my face. But you know, so you can kind of see the needle was bouncing around, and I think that's because it was starting to create air in the line. Gasoline boils at a very low temperature. Don't quote me on this, but it's something like 86 degrees, or I mean, it's a very low temperature, so it does not take a lot of heat to start boiling gasoline. So anyway, I figured I would show you guys how to drain the fuel out of the tank. Now luckily, like I said, the fuel pump still works. It's just kind of losing pressure. It had like 50 pounds of pressure. It should be making 60, so I think it's really on its way out. But the worst thing that could possibly happen has happened on this, and basically the fuel pump, I mean the fuel tank is completely full. I mean to the top. She had just filled it up. So I'm going to show you guys how to pump the tank out if you are you know, if your pump still works. You know, this will save you a lot of trouble. So I had an adapter hanging on the wall. I got all kind of fuel line things, but this is a quick connect fitting on this piece of pipe. So basically I just snapped it into the fuel line. I disconnected it from the fuel rail, snapped this guy in here, hooked up a piece of fuel hose to that, and I've got it running into a tank. And I've got a few of these, so we're going to be filling those up. That's about 6.5 gallons. Those buckets are 5 gallons. I got a couple more over there, so hopefully we can get it, you know, pretty empty. If I can't get it all the way empty, it'll be light enough that I can work with it, so that's not a problem. So, but anyway, basically what I did is I made a little jumper wire, and there's probably about 20 different ways that you can accomplish this. So, you know, but I've got a spade end on one side, and I put the male side on the other end, and I'll basically just cut half of it off so that it'll fit in the relay slot. And on all your GMT 360s, this is your fuel pump relay. You'll see it on the label. But you're going to pull this guy out. The bottom left terminal is going to be the actual fuel pump lead. And so you can pretty much just go anywhere to 12 volts. I'm going to go right here. And the key's off. Everything's off. I did put the charger on here because I didn't want to run the battery dead just in case. But as you can see, she's pumping away. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this tank drained right quick, and then I'm gonna get this thing in the air, and I'll show you guys how to remove the actual fuel tank itself. Alright guys, fuel tank is drained, and the truck is up in there, and I'm up under it right now. So I'll go over a couple things with you. First of all, the most, I won't say undoubtedly the most, I guess, challenging part of getting the gas tank out is going to be the filler gooseneck. And so that's going to be this rubber hose right here. It's not a very good angle on it. Maybe I can get it from up here. Yeah, there you go. Let me move the light up with the camera. Alright, so you see that big gooseneck filler, and that thing's going to be a little bit challenging to get off most of the time. So you know, you got to get the clamp off and just kind of pop the rubber loose, you know, twist it gently with a pair of channel locks, you know, something like that, and just kind of work it off. That thing's got a really fat lip on the plastic nipple that sticks out of the tank, and over time the rubber kind of conforms to it, and so even once you pop the rubber loose, it's just going to be pretty difficult to get that thing off. So I usually like to start with that just to get it out of the way. Next thing you're going to do is disconnect these 3 lines right here. You know, there's the third connector right there, and basically all you have to do is just push the wide area. See that on the bottom? You just kind of push that in and slide the connectors out. Really not much to it, but you're going to pop all 3 of those guys off. This has a plug going to it. You're going to disconnect the plug on this guy, and the next thing is going to be these straps. Well, I guess if we're unhooking stuff, you're going to want to unhook these fuel lines as well. And same thing, you push the little plastic thing and the line just slips right out. Same thing up here, you know. So disconnect this line here, disconnect that one there, and fuel lines are going to be loose and out of your way. And you're going to want to drip pan for that, because fuel is definitely coming up no matter what you do. Next thing we're looking at is going to be the tank straps. And you're going to want to support the tank at this point with a floor jack or whatever you got, you know, that you're holding the tank up with. It's empty, so it's not going to be too bad for me, but you can see the strap up in there. It appears to be a 15mm bolt. So once you support the tank, go ahead and get these straps out of the way completely. And it's also, I know it sounds crazy, but it's also helpful to just go ahead and move the drive shaft out of your way. You got your 4 little bolts back here on the straps, and you could pop this thing out at this end over here and just hang it over there on that exhaust strap or whatever, you know, just something over there. Just get you a big zip tie or a bungee cord or something like that, and just get the drive shaft out of your way. You don't have to do that, but it really does make the job a lot easier. You're gonna have a little bit of an issue with this strap back here, wanting to hit the drive shaft and not being able to unhook it and all that good stuff. So I would recommend highly that you just go ahead and undo the drive shaft and just hang it back over here out of the way. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Like I said, you don't even have to pull this side up, you know, just get the back side out of the way. This strap, you know, is already kind of out where you can get to it. It's not a big deal. This one back here is the one that's kind of difficult. So anyway, if you do that, it seems like it's going to take a lot of time, but honestly, the little bit of time you spend popping that off, it's going to save you a lot of headache fighting with this strap, trying to get the tank out from under it and all that good stuff. So all right, I'm going to get that stuff done, and then we'll drop this thing down and I'll show you the connections and stuff on top of the tank. All right, pardon the compressor noise, but that worked out anyway because I got music playing and now you can't hear it. Anyway, so I got all the lines disconnected, and as you can see, I pulled the drive shaft over to the side, and I'm going to show you this rear strap. And you can see where it's hanging, free hanging right there, and it's just pretty difficult, like I said earlier, to get this thing unhooked with the drive shaft in there. You got to kind of turn it sideways, you know, just kind of work it out of there. They're kind of a pain, but I mean, you don't necessarily really even have to get it out, but I don't know, I'll figure out what I'm gonna do. I may just leave it hanging like this, but either way, it's out of the way. With the drive shaft in here, you know, you would only be able to get it back about that far, and that makes things pretty difficult. So just wanted to show you why the drive shaft being gone makes it easier. I did forget about one other line. There's one vent line up there at the top, you know, for the gooseneck, and this is the same deal. You just squeeze it and pop it out. You can see all those guys are loose, and got the fuel lines loose. You get some light. It's loose. I just kind of stuck it up on there so it wouldn't drip. Y'all be careful with this. Wear some, protective eyewear or something. This stuff it comes out, trust me. So I have the drain pan under here. So this evac line's taking loose right there. So, and then I got my trusty, exactly, get my light up here. Got my trusty Harbor Freight transmission jack that is useful for a lot of stuff. Absolutely love this thing. So anyway, I'm gonna start lowering this thing down, and then I'll show you guys the electrical connection on top of the tank. There should be two. This is a 2009, so 2005 and up, you've got a tank pressure sensor and the actual fuel pump fuel gauge connector. It's one connector, and then the pressure sensor is a separate one, but I'll show that guys to you in a second. Show that to you guys in a second. Alright, there's your electrical connections. Let's see if I can get some better light up here. You can't let the tank all the way down until you unhook the wiring and stuff. And all the wiseness of GM, they decided that they wouldn't give you enough slack to let the tank down, so. Alright, this is how it's going to look when it comes out. You can see there's our evac line, fuel line right there. This is your vent valve. And a lot of times these things break around here and leak. This one doesn't have any problems with that, but if you're having a fuel tank leak when you fill your tank up, it's most likely going to be this guy right here, and you're going to need to just go ahead and find another tank. And while I'm on the subject, any short wheelbase GMT 360 fuel tank, whether it's an inline 6 or a V8, is going to be identical from 2005 to 2009. So if you need a new fuel tank, you got a lot of places to look. The long wheelbase will not fit. It hits the cross member for the transmission, and it's way different. And you don't want to use you can't interchange them between the years. You got a return system and a returnless system, and they sound simple until you see it, but the fuel hat is completely different. So it's a lot smaller. You can't swap parts back and forth. I'm not saying it couldn't be made to work, but you're not going to hook it up and go. So, you're going to be, doing some fabrication or splicing or something. And then the fuel gauge also reads the opposite way. So, 2005 and up, the fuel gauge, I'll probably get this backwards, but you'll get the idea. The fuel gauge basically, like 40 ohms is full and 250 ohms is empty. And then like the other year range, it's the opposite. Like 250 is empty and 40 is full. So you can't like flip it over, or like I said, it's not interchangeable. So unless you do some fabrication or something like that, just you don't want to get into that. So all right, so the next step that we're going to get into, I covered up the fuel inlet with a bag and a zip tie just to make sure nothing gets in here, and we are going to clean the crap out of this thing. I'm going to get my air gun, and I'm gonna blow and scrape, get everything loose off of here that I can, get everything cleaned up, and that way when we knock this thing loose, there won't be much or anything to fall into the tank. And this one's a little rusty, so no matter what I do, there's gonna be something coming loose, but I'm gonna do my best to clean this thing up, scrape it off real good, try to get all the loose stuff, blow it out with air. Alright guys, I figured I'd give you a couple tips on getting the fuel pump retainer ring off. As you can see, I got this thing out, and basically, it just twists counterclockwise. So there is a special tool for that, but I've never had one or used one, so I can't say how well they work. But what I've always done is either taken a hammer and chisel, and just tapped on it and popped it loose. Or if it's kind of rusty like this one was, your best bet's going to be this guy right here. If you have an air compressor and an air hammer, of course. You're going to want to turn this thing down a little bit, and you got to be super careful not to, slip off into the tank, because this is a plastic. So, it's pretty tough, but, if you got a sharp chisel, it could just pop right through there, and then you're looking for a new tank. So, you just want to make sure and keep this at a steep angle. Pretty much just lay it down as steep as you can. and get on the tab and just kind of bump it a little on this side, and then get on the other side, bump it a little bit, and it pops right out. So anyway, so like I said, cleaned everything up and got everything out. So next we'll go over how to put the Walbro 450 in there, and I'll get everything swapped over and show you guys that in just a second. Alright, so I've got the fuel pump assembly here, and as you can see, the difference between the stock Walbro 180-ish fuel pump and then this is a Walbro 450, or I guess TI Automotive now. I'm guessing they bought them out years ago, but either way, the main part of the pump is the same size. So what you want to do is basically, you know, this is where the stock pump's at in this little cradle right here, and obviously this wide bottom's not going to fit in there, but the rest of it's the same size. I mean, you can see the connections and everything are identical on the top. It's just the bottom part's bigger. It's got a bigger pump, same motor, bigger pump. All right, so I'm going to show you on this old busted one that I've got, but you want to cut this flush with basically the bottom of this bracket looking part. So cut that whole bottom of the basket off flush with this lip, and that'll get your 450 pump right where it needs to be. You see it right there, just flat off right there, and you'll be good to go. But I just want you guys to know that you want the bucket, you know. Basically what it does is as you drive around, it collects fuel, and you know, so if your tank gets low or something like that, you know, when the fuel is sloshing around, the bowl collects the fuel and keeps it where the pump can get to it. If you don't have the bowl, then when the fuel sloshes around, you lose fuel pressure. So once you get below, you know, about a quarter of a tank or something like that, you're not going to have good fuel pressure. Every time you stop, it's going to stall out on you and all kind of good stuff. So all right, so in the bottom of the fuel bucket, you see that little orange circle? That is where the fuel collects. So as you're driving around, you know, fuel's able to come up through that. It's a little, basically like a little valve. Fuel can come in, but it kind of holds it in there, it seals it in. So and then your built-in fuel pressure regulator, which is this guy right here. Your pump runs into it and then comes out of it up to the thing, but the return is going to be down inside this pump. So it's going to, whatever, once you get to 58 psi, it's going to blow out here, so it's going to continuously fill the bowl up. So that's the purpose of the bowl. All right, let's talk about your lines coming in and out of this thing. So this will come with your kit, and you can use it, or you can use some fuel injector fuel hose. Make sure that it's made for fuel injection if you do go that route. And I highly recommend using fuel injection clamps as well if you go that way. Make sure you can see that good. You can get these at any auto parts store, obviously, but regular fuel hose is not going to work. It's got to be fuel injection, because regular fuel hose is just made for carburetors and stuff like that. Fuel injection is a higher pressure reinforced hose, so you don't want to do all this work. You don't want to do all this work, you know, and have the little hose explode on you in a couple months, right? So, but anyway, so basically what you're going to do is stick this hose on here, and you can see where your barb is at, right? So your clamp's got to be behind that barb. Now when you hold this thing up, I mean, you can see that it's going to be right at the tip, and there's actually lines. I don't know if they'll show up in the glare, but there's little lines on here, so that kind of gives you an idea of where to put the clamp. But so I'm going to slide this clamp on right here, and then I'm going to take my pliers and squeeze this guy down, and that's all there is to it. I mean, you can tell it's tight, you know, if you can't really move it or whatever. It's not going to take a whole lot, like I said, because of that barb. It's not going to slide over that barb, so that's pretty much all you need to do for that. I mean, it's not really that difficult. They do sell special tools for that. I have these pliers that I've been using for years. I'm not even 100% sure what they are for. Maybe hognose pliers or something. I'm not really sure, but they work good on these clamps, so that's what I use. You can get these at Home Depot or just about anywhere. You know, it's probably a $10 pair of pliers. So anyway, we're gonna slide this guy into the housing, and as you can see, it slides right in there. And that's basically what you're looking at as far as, you know, the pump fitment and all that good stuff. So I've never really worried about, you know, clamping this thing. You know, there's a plastic tab up here that was a snap for the original pump right there. And so if it makes you feel any better, you know, you could probably put a good zip tie in there. You know, not a cheap one. You got to use the black plastic ones. I believe are the ones that are more resistant to chemicals, but I usually don't really put anything in here because it sits in the bowl, you know. So you're gonna put your screen on here, and then when you put the bowl over it, you know, it's not going anywhere. So to me, this is fine just like it is. I've seen some people put hose clamps in here to hold it and stuff, which is fine if that's what you want to do. It's just I have not found it to be necessary. So anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing on this other side. You can see where the old fuel pump hose was hooked up. So you'll slide that guy over those bars, put you another clamp on there, and then you'll be down to the wiring, and you can pretty much just use your stock wires. You know, they'll plug right up to the pump. So you know, and if you're wanting to, you know, just change the connectors out for new ones or whatever, I would highly suggest soldering and heat shrinking everything. So I'm going to check resistance and everything on these. I'm probably just going to go ahead and just plug them in. All right, as you can see, got everything installed. I went ahead and replaced the electrical connectors. You want to make sure and use a nice high quality connector. Don't use like a real cheap one, because you don't want them to come off or lose connection, or like if they're real thin, cheap ones, they might get hot, you know, so you don't want that issue. I went ahead and put this hose up here on the regulator, and I did put a clamp on it just to be safe. The factory one doesn't have a clamp, but you know, this isn't a factory one, so I just wanted to make sure that we don't have any issues. So I went ahead and put a clamp on there, and as you can see, everything's solid. These are your electrical connectors, and the crazy thing about this is this plug will fit on either side, but the fuel pump, you know, if you got so you can see it, that's the fuel pump side right there, and then the other side is for the fuel gauge. So you can't actually plug those in the opposite way, and then nothing will work. So I want to make sure you get your plugs in the right place if you took them out. But we're gonna go ahead and get the bucket put on right quick, and then we'll go ahead and get this thing put back in the truck. So you can see this guy right here. It's gonna go down in that hole, and so you want to make sure you turn it the right way. And you can line your tabs up and just snap her down. And that's it. It's ready to go back in the tank. Alright, so I'm actually glad this happened, because I want to show you guys. This is the old hat. I actually swapped it out to use the stock bottom, and I swapped the hat out. So this thing was pretty rusty, as you can see. And you know, some of the plastic was brittle, so you know, as I was trying to get everything unplugged and whatnot, you know, this stuff broke, and these tabs are all rusted. And in fact, it's so rusty I can just kind of push this fuel connection around, so that's no good. But as you can see, this plastic ring that goes inside of this fuel connector right here was actually stuck because of some rust right there. And this is something that, you know, probably happen if you guys are kind of in a rust belt area. And this is honestly the first time I've had this happen. I've tried and worked on it, and And finally I just kind of had to force it off so this plastic would come out so I could see what was going on. So you know, and if you try to work this off, I mean, it's just gonna mess it up, so there's no point in even trying to fool with that stuff. So I had a replacement piece, and let me see if I can find the package. Here it is. I actually have several different, you know, fuel line deals, and this is the one I used to pump the tank out right here. You know, so I'll just clean it up, put it back in the bag. But it's always nice to have a few little fuel line fittings laying around. But this is what this one is. This is a 730-4922, and like I said, it's one that I already have here. But as you can see, the connection is the exact same. I mean, it's even got the same symbol on it, that B or whatever it is. So this is exactly what came off. The only issue is, you know, it's not bent, but it comes with this splice right here. And so, you know, what you could do, I guess, is just, you know, line this up and cut it. But I'm going to attempt to put the splice down here somewhere. So I'm going to see if I can heat this up with the heat gun and replicate those bends right there, and see if I can get the splice down here in this just longer straight area. So I'm going to try that right now, and we'll see how that works. If that doesn't want to bend, then I guess I'll try to put it in here. You know, it'll be a little bit longer because obviously I've got to have enough room to put the splice in it. But that shouldn't really mess with us too much if it's, you know, about an inch longer. But I'm going to try to bend this first. Make sure when you get ready to put your lock ring back on, see if this will focus here. All your little lead edges that catch up under the tabs, just take a grinder and just cut you a little ramp on that front edge. See how it's kind of sharp. Hopefully it's in focus. But that's pretty much the only tip I can give you about getting this thing back together, because it's kind of a pain getting it started. So hopefully that'll get it. Well, this is unrelated to the fuel stuff that I was working on earlier, but I figured before I do the first start, I'd go ahead and get some of this stuff out of the way. So I'm replacing the push rods. They got a lot of miles on them, so I ordered another set of push rods because I heard a little ticking on this side over here. So I already did the driver's side and the spark plugs, and there was a lot of wear on the push rods, so I'm expecting to see the same thing on this side. But this is what you got to do. You change the plugs. You got to take the intake, washer tank, and everything loose so you can move these lines around. And you know, that's pretty much what it takes just to change the spark plug. But of course I'm going to be pulling the valve cover also. But anyway, figured I would include that in the video just for fun. Alright guys, went for a little test drive, and Of course, it's raining like crazy. I don't know why, but we just had like, I guess they said there's some hurricanes or something. But yeah, it's been raining like an insane amount. But we went for a test drive. Everything's running great. It feels a lot better. And also the push rods made the engine a lot quieter. So yeah, that's, I don't know, it's just great. It's running good. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I've had several people ask about, you know, doing the upgrade on the fuel pump and some other stuff. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, you know, help support the channel. It don't cost you anything but, you know, 1 second of your day. And it really shows me that you guys appreciate the work that goes into these videos, and, you know, that you'll provide a friend with some support. So anyway, y'all have a good day. I will see you next time.